Not a lot of genres can claim to be as popular and consistently successful as RPGs, and with that sort of success, it goes without saying that there's no shortage of options for players to choose from. More often than not, quite a few games often get left behind, which can be a bit of a shame because often those games turn out to be deserving of way more attention and recognition. Here we'll be talking about a few such RPGs that may have flown under the radar for many, but definitely need to be checked out by all genre fans. CROSSCODE. Radical Fish Games' action RPG CROSSCODE has its fair share of fans, and they'll enthusiastically tell you about how good the game is. It makes use of a unique and fascinating premise for a memorable experience, pairing that with a timeless 16-bit art style and a fast-paced and consistently enjoyable combat system that can pose a fair bit of challenge. Sword and Fairy 7. There's a good chance that you haven't heard of Sword and Fairy 7, but developer Softstar's action RPG is well worth your time. Telling an epic tale that's uniquely dedicated to the series' Chinese mythology-based lore, Sword and Fairy 7 isn't exactly perfect and at times even sloppy, but the good far outweighs the bad here, and the game has more than enough going for it to keep you entertained until the credits roll. Radiant Historia. Recent years have seen Atlus enjoying impressive success with major releases, like Persona, but the Japanese developer has made other excellent RPGs in the past that haven't been that fortunate. 2011's Nintendo DS title Radiant Historia, for instance, delivered an excellent story and combat system. Though the RPG never really took off the way it should have, it did receive an expanded re-release in 2018 on the 3DS, but who was going to play a game in 2018 on the 3DS? YUAN Sword 7. Here's yet another game that arrives as a sequel in a long-running series that many might not have even heard of, which is why YUAN Sword 7, being as good as it is even more surprising. It tells a surprisingly engaging tale, and does it better than you would expect, while on the gameplay side of things it's got a deep and enjoyable combat system. With so much going for it, it's hard not to find fun in what this game offers up. ARON'S Adventure. ARON'S Adventure launched last year to almost no fanfare, but though you may not have heard of it, if you're a fan of fantasy worlds and action RPGs, you might want to give this one a look. It's got a fun combat system with several different playstyles, and engaging exploration in environments that have decent variety, and though it's certainly got some clunkiness and jank to it, it's still worth checking out. Dark Cloud. Even in Level 5's crowded lineup of excellent RPGs, Dark Cloud and Dark Cloud 2 are games that manage to stand out. Dark Cloud features a charming visual style, a solid story with endearing characters and effective world building, and an enjoyable combat system. All of this comes together in a solid RPG that anyone with any interest in the genre should check out. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. There was no shortage of hype surrounding Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning's launch back in the day, but sadly the game became a victim of unfortunate circumstances. For a multitude of reasons, it didn't sell nearly as much as many had expected it would, but right out of the gate, it amassed a legion of fans that fell in love with its massive and lore-rich world, its incredible combat, and the sheer breadth of the experience that was on offer. The recent remaster brought the limelight back onto Kingdoms of Amalur for a while, and hopefully there's more to come from this IP in the future. Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous. Owlcat delivered a solid enough game with the first Pathfinder, but its sequel is a significant step forward in nearly every way possible. Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous offers just about everything you would want in a good CRPG, with choice and consequence mechanics to an engaging combat system, with far fewer rough edges than the first game. Wrath of the Righteous is just a few months old at this point, and still only available on PC, so there's plenty of time for more players to come on board, especially with PS4 and Xbox One versions launching later this year. The Legend of Dragoon. Nowadays, it's not a secret that The Legend of Dragoon is a bona fide classic. This isn't for no reason either. It was a game that combined interesting characters, some reasonably deep story threads, and a handful of fun twists on the RPG format. This combat system was made all the more intricate with the standard elements and status effects that you would see in typical JRPGs. Between battles, the game had lots of towns and dungeons to explore. Wild Arms. Wild Arms' great tragedy was that it came out just a few short months before a little game called Final Fantasy VII, and any 3D RPG coming out around that time was fighting an uphill battle when it came to trying to get people's attention. Still, those who played Wild Arms had plenty of good things to say about it, from its fast-paced combat to its unique party system to its visuals, which at the time were deemed truly cutting-edge. Wild Arms did more than enough to impress audiences. Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia is regarded by many as one of the best RPGs of its time, and among the best Dreamcast games of all time, but of course being the best game of a failed system isn't exactly good for sales. Skies of Arcadia was a dream come true for RPG fans with its vast and varied world that was full of dungeons, each begging to be explored. Of course, you could just as easily lose yourself in its classic turn-based combat system. Hopefully Sega will one day see the value in the IP and decide to bring it back in some capacity. Sands of Aura. Still in early access, Sands of Aura is set in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world that's been buried under a sea of sand. It's got a unique setting, it's got interesting characters, and so much more. Offering mechanically dense combat, it's a must-play for all RPG and Souls fans. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 is a very good RPG with memorable characters, fun battles, a compelling story, and tons of great side content to engage with. Those who know nothing about the series are encouraged to start with the first game to get the maximum amount of enjoyment out of the story. Cold Steel 4's battle system is top-notch, and there's a good mix of enemies ranging from established fiends and monsters to new threats to keep you occupied. The story bosses are very entertaining throughout, each bringing something interesting to the table while offering their own challenges. And that brings us to the end of the video. A quick request, we upload new videos every single day, and if you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. Also, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon so that you can receive daily video updates. Thanks for watching.